So most of the things I read are related to what I like in terms of, what type of research really I like. And most of the time I realize that the research I like the most is the one that improves the way we do experiments and we analyze data and we elicit preferences. So it takes time, right, to understand what you like and what you don't like. And it also takes time to identify what are your research interests. I think I shared with you my experience. So when I went to Arkansas back in 2009, I asked my supervisor, Rudy, you met Rudy today, I said, what should I do now? And he said, read. And so this is what I did. I think I read all the papers by Jayson. I really know all his papers. And I still use those papers. So my suggestion is just read whatever, not whatever, read what you think can really shape the way you think, the way you will do things. And to do that, also my suggestion is identify journals you like. So at the time, AJE was publishing a lot of papers by Jayson and people doing experimental work. And so that journal was a great source of, it was a great source of resources for me, but then you can also read other journals like Marketing Science, for example, or GBO, Development Economics, depending on your field. But if you don't read, you don't know what is going on in the literature. You are not able to identify what are the gaps and what you would do to fill those gaps. So this is what I will recommend, and I still read a lot whenever I have time to do that.
So Lucy, we're basically asking us, give us your best research ideas. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So, we're probably obviously reluctant to give away our best research ideas, but I will say, like, sometimes if it's a like applied research question, there's high value to having a first mover advantage. I'll just give you an example. Vincenzina, I have this paper on plant-based meat. That was like a mere 3 years ago, but it happened to be one of the first, and now it's very well cited, and now there's like 50,000, or whatever papers on that topic. And so if you find something like that, that really you're like, this is a question people are not answering. If I can do it quickly and push it out quickly, there is a lot of value to being first on one of those things, not a lot of value to being the 50th. And that's tough to say, but sometimes there's been several moments in my career where I thought, if we could do this and do it quick, and that was one of them, this will get cited. And so that's, so if you're asking like, what are one of those things? I honestly don't have an answer. If I did, I'd be unlikely to tell it to you because I'd be trying to do it, right now myself. But there, you'll find moments in time sort of like that. The other one, though, I think if you ask me sort of some of the things that are exciting to me, I think, we work on things that are exciting to us. So like the paper I have with Carola, this calibrated choice experiment thing, there's a lot of fruitful ground there. I think this sort of like taking people's estimates in a static format and trying to be more interactive in a market kind of based approach, giving people feedback. You answer this way. We think this means that you would choose this, or that we think that means this. Like, is that right? Like kind of this sort of more interactive approach that is much more available to us now with, the kinds of tools that we have that weren't really as present 10 or 15 years ago. I think there's a lot of opportunity in that space to sort of take and grow that in areas. I think also I know Vincenzina talked to you all about the basket-based stuff. There's, a million iterations of that I think thinking about approaches that allow very flexible kind of substitution patterns and like coupling that with the modeling. I know Tim Richards here at Arizona has, other modeling approaches that you could apply to some of those data. So I think there's a lot that's sort of exciting to me right now because it's sort of going in a direction that I think is good. Then I'll just mention, this is not a new paper anymore, but I will say it's still probably one of my favorite papers. It's probably 7 or 8 years old now. AJE, Nevo is one of the authors, Griffin, I think was the other one. They basically estimate preferences in different countries using scanner data. And they basically try to answer a question like, why do people in France eat differently than people in the United States? Is it preferences? Is it beliefs? Is it prices? Is it opportunity sets? And that takes a combination of preferences, opportunity sets, prices in different locations, and combining that together. That has been one of my favorite papers, and like trying to do some combination of that in different contexts would be something that would be really fun.
So what excites me the most is when I see methods combined that I didn't even think about that they could be combined like that. And then the other thing that always really excites me to see papers where they find really simple mechanisms to measure something. So I was at a conference when food waste started, and they talked about how they gave everybody an apple. Was that probably you, David? I don't know. They gave everybody an apple, and then they took pictures of like how many were thrown in the trash or something like that. And was like, that is so simple. Is it your paper? So simple, right? So finding ways to measure something either in a really simple way or by combining methods that nobody has done before. And then you can give completely new insight into a topic that I find super interesting. And then of course, now we talk all about interdisciplinary research, and that is really hard. But if you can build these relationships, if you're in the beginning of your career and you make these connections in your university in really different fields, I think then you can build the trust and you can develop the same language to communicate. And then you can go and really write fantastic proposals on issues where we need research and where it's hard to do that research because oftentimes we don't speak the same language. So I think that's also really exciting, especially when you start out and take the time to build those relationships.
I guess the things that interest me the most are usually have some significant sort of interaction between the experimental method and the theory behind it. And specifically, I really get excited about work that seems to find some sort of fundamental flaw in the way we've been thinking about it. If we can find some sort of flaw in our theory of the way people make choices about something, or in welfare or things like that, it starts to shed a whole lot of light on why our programs don't work the way we think they should, right? It gives us a little more insight into how we should be going about policy making and perhaps management and other types of decisions too. Those are the things that tend to get me excited, but they're sort of hard to find, right?
I would also I'd like to add something else, right? In addition to what the topic, right, it's also important to work with people you really like. This is maybe the most important aspect of this job. Enjoy what you do, and to enjoy what you do, you need to have nice collaborators, people from who you can learn and with you can share ideas and feel like it's okay to do that and to grow, right, with. So I think that this is maybe the most important aspect of our job. And this is the one that obviously gives me is a great source of joy for me. So choose good collaborators and mentors too.
I would say the same. I mean, I don't think I've written a paper with David, but certainly with these two. And you're talking about what are your good ideas? I mean, almost all of them came not from me, like sitting in isolation. It was because we were brainstorming. We were just having a few beers. We're trying to like say, what if we did it this way? Or what about this or whatever? But if you looked at my resume over the years, I probably published the most papers with a guy named Bailey Norwood. And that, there's probably a million ideas we didn't do, but some of the like most pleasurable intellectual exercises were just us trying to think about how could we do something like this that's interesting. And so I 100% agree with that, is find good collaborators. And you also find different people have different strengths that, find somebody who does parts of the research task better than you, and you do the part you do well. Comparative advantage and trade works well in writing papers too. And by the way, if you write a paper with Vincenzina, she will replicate all of your code and results to make sure they're right. So don't make mistakes when you work with Vincenzina.